Today, we're looking at Diamine's Classic Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine's Classic Green, as it sounds, is a green ink. And to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Nemosine Singularity to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. And up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water. And we see a very nice light blue on the bottom of this chromatography. As it moves up, it becomes a green with a sort of purple line across the top. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, and that blue across the bottom is much darker. Then we see some of the light blue push up into the green, into that same purple, which makes me feel like this ink might have just a little bit of hold on. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to hold up on the paper, but more importantly, how hard it might be to clean out of your pens. And I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing. Looking at the highlighter, we see that it seems to perform pretty okay. There's some spread, no real feathering. It definitely spreads out though. I wouldn't avoid this as a note taker. I would just be cautious based on what I see going on with the water. And the water, given 30 seconds, we see a majority of this ink comes up off the page, leaving just a very light green behind. I believe it would only take water to clean this from your pens. Pen flush looks the same as water. I see no real difference. Again, that's only 30 seconds and it's blotted up. But it's not leaving white spots behind, which means it's not doing more to clean it off. Water's probably all that's needed. Bleach practically removes it entirely from the page. We only see very light, faint green in some of that circle. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Classic Green has a viscosity of 1.86, which makes it a wetter ink, certainly wetter. It's in the orange region. To find my average dry times, I use the writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine's Classic Green has an average dry time of 20 seconds. So while it's normal, it's in the realm of normal, it's on the longer side of normal, and this is a wet ink, but it's still a very normal dry time. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up as sample form. And to keep my writing sample consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, but shade. We get shading in the 1.1. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and shading all over the place. 13 seconds to dry. Medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and tons of shading. Glorious. Truly glorious. 20 seconds to dry. The extra fine and the medium show us in a scrubby that we can expect to get, and we did get, plenty of color variation as we write. And the smear test, I don't know that you could save this in a smear. That's going to be a maybe. Tomoe River, we have no bleeding. We do have ghosting. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. No shade. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and we lose the shading in this. 20 seconds to dry. Medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, some shading in some areas, only where the ink managed to stay a little bit thicker. 28 seconds to dry for it. Now when we look at the scrubby,
The extra fine and the medium show us we're really not going to get color variation. So the medium was a little off in the scrubby because we did get some color variation in the writing. On the smear test, you're not going to get to recover this if you smear it on Tomoe River. Rhodia paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, definite shading all the way through on this writing. 15 seconds. So pretty normal. Medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and definite shading all the way through all of this writing. 21 seconds to dry. The scrubby in both the extra fine and the medium show us that we are going to get plenty of color variation, which we did get. And the smear test shows us we would likely be able to recover it. This is a fantastic green ink. So I put it in a very dry Nemosine Singularity. And we see a different tone of green than we got with the extra fine. And we see buttloads of color variation, shading all over the place. This is a great, great green ink. One that everybody should add to their list of green inks. Unless you don't like green, then don't get it. Yep. So I decided to look at what happens to that particular color if I try it on some different toned papers. I put it onto the yellow Rhodia, which gave us no bleeding, no ghosting. But let's compare this. It's interesting because it seems like everything's going to hold, and it's definitely a little lighter. That yellow background lightened up this green, which is something you can expect to happen with a green ink, that it's going to lighten it up a little bit, and it makes a really, really nice looking green. It's fantastic. Truly fantastic. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Not a lot of shading up here. No shade, really. The extra fine gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, but shading all over the writing. Little more obvious here in certain areas just because it got lighter with the yellow. And 15 seconds to dry. The medium gave us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and still shading all over in the writing. Plenty of great shading in quick, in over, in jumps. 21 seconds to dry. The extra fine and the medium scrubby both show us that we can expect some color variation that we got in the writing. So we get exactly what we expect. And the smear test says you could likely recover it on this paper. So I tried it on G-Lalo. It's a laid paper, great for correspondence. I haven't used it because the color is just, it's just weird on a lot of inks other than black. So that's why I like to try it with certain colors, because I want to see something that comes out real nice. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, see, it becomes like an icky green here. That's why it's icky. Ew. But, you know, the 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, but shading all over in the writing. It performs very well. The color's just kind of ew. 8 seconds to dry. Now the medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, bits of color variation throughout. 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both the extra fine and the medium show us that we can expect some color variation, and we did get the color variation in the writing. The smear test, I don't think you can recover this if you smear it when you're writing. We're going to find an ink that looks good on this paper eventually. This one's just gross. Otherwise, it's great. I love this green color. Just not on that gray G-Lalo paper. That's all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Classic Green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And I've chosen Robert Oster Khaki because it's a pretty nice brown. Before I get to my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine's Classic Green? It seems that there is nothing that this green does not do well, unless you want permanent. But other than that, there's nothing this green doesn't do well, and I like greens, and I really like this green. Thanks for watching.